Hi, everybody. It's JeGaysus, and I am here with Zoe, looking gorgeous as always. Yay! Very first episode, Untracing Trauma. This is it. This is what we've been working towards, I guess. For me personally, in terms of like having a platform, I've always just wanted to figure out a way, and this is the first step in doing it, figuring out a way to help others and just highlight stories that are not mine. And I always talk to people, and I'm blown away by the things they've overcome. And I just wanted to start somewhere. And Zoe was gracious enough to come on today and be that person. So, Zoe, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So hi. I'm Zoe, Zothemotorscooter on my socials. See, my bio literally is I'm just a bitch with a phone. because there's like I'm trying to do like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, like I do comedy here and there. My main purpose is to teach intersectionality, trauma healing, radical self-love, and realistic positivity.
Yes. So this is perfect. This is the perfect person to have my first episode then. I'm just going to give the show to you. You'll be the new host, and I'll just back out as producer. That's amazing. No, and if anyone ever like goes onto the TikTokies and follows your content, you are so positive in like this is what I like about your content, at least. It's positivity in a very self-acceptance way. You can be talking about like some of the darkest topics, some of the worst things, and then still come out at a place of like, that you have self-worth. And like, that's what beams across the screen is you believe in you, and it's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. So do you want any like updates? Do you want to say like, go follow me here? We can do that at the end, actually, if you want to. I'll post all your socials and stuff as well in the description. Yeah, I have your card, your link tree in the description already. So if anybody is wanting to click buttons while you're in the stream, click like, and then go click the link tree and follow everywhere. So let's just kind of talk. So what is your background? I'm not super familiar if you came from a religious upbringing or I'm guessing that's a yes.
So my grandmother was really my grandmother was really religious, like really into church, and my mother really wasn't.
Okay.
So like, when I was a kid, I would go to church and things like that. But my faith started by myself. So
interesting.
My family, like I live with my mom. My mom was a single mom. And at the time, during my high school years, my older brother, who's 8 years older than me, at the time, his girlfriend and their 1-year-old son lived in this house. And I had just gotten back. I had gotten out of military school, and I was back in my mom's house trying to figure out, identity. Who am I?
Sure. What age was this for you?
I was 13.
13. Okay.
So one of my aunts, took me to her church, and that was the beginning of the end. I was very, very devoted, like very devoted.
Yeah.
And mind you, my family did not go to church.
Yeah.
So it was just me.
Wow.
So my aunt would come get me. My mom's, having cocktails and smoking cigarettes. And I think she is the devil. Like, I think my family, they are the devil.
Oh,
no. because my church was very, I can say it now, it was very cult-like.
Mm-hmm.
Very cult-like.
Mm-hmm. That is so
I
interesting.
didn't understand what church trauma was until I had.
Sure. No, of course.
No idea what that was until I was like 25, and my then therapist said, "You were spiritually abused." And I'm like, "What?"
You can't see it until you're out and removed, and then it takes usually someone else to bring it up.
It made me feel dirty.
Sure.
It made me feel dirty, like spiritual abuse. Like I feel disgusting, because I never wanted to use the word abuse in spiritual, because to me, the eternal place, we were taught in church, like the eternal place, the kingdom lives in you, and that is the place where I should never ever feel abused. And when my therapist said spiritual abuse, I was like, oh, that's dirty to me. Makes me feel really dirty.
It is, and it's insidious because it's like it's taking a thing that's supposed to be what you consider like the purest form of anything, right? Mm-hmm. Holiness, like the relationship to you and your creator, and then somebody manipulating you using the most pure love or like your seeking of love and validation.
Very, very dark period because I was in high school. I was in public school now. Mm-hmm. And these kids don't know me. I'm trying to find identity. I'm this queer kid, and I was devoted to my church, man. I was devoted. Monday there was nothing going on at the church. Tuesday, a few of us went there to clean. Okay. Then we had Wednesday night service. Then we had Thursday night service at another location because he was trying out a different spot. And we were Pentecostal, charismatic, by the way, flipping over chairs and tongues, fasting, miracles, signs, and wonders. I would throw my offering at his feet so he'd walk on it.
Oh, wow.
Because he said that his shadow had anointing, just like Paul's.
I saw a TikTok just yesterday of a pastor woman who, in the middle of like the whole spirit coming through and being slain, she took off her shoes. And did you see that one?
I just saw that.
And she had gold as she was walking.
And she said, I feel something in my feet. It's burning. And I'm like, now I have to spray tough actin tenactin on this floor because you just got athlete's foot and your gold nail polish all over the goddamn floor. I would. So
you were at that kind of church, basically, where like just the pastor was just radiating God.
So I was very in. And then we had Friday night service. Mm-hmm. Then we had Saturday morning service, and how it would rotate either 7 or 8 in the morning. It was prayer. So we would come in there and we'd pray together, groggy-eyed, kids, young and old, because we were all responsible for our salvation, okay?
Yeah.
And we're praying, tarrying, and I mean crying. And then we had hours, because I was in the choir. So we had choir rehearsal, I had praise dance rehearsal. And then Sunday, we had 3 services and Sunday school. So we had a 9:30 service. We had 10:30 Bible study. Mm-hmm. Then we had 11:45 service. Then we would eat together like a restaurant somewhere and then come back to 5:45 service. And let me tell you something. We had to be there. And my pastor would say that he knew if we were sinning and we were away from church because our skin would get darker.
No. You fucking... What?
I'm telling you. And I had
whoa. Okay, wait. So first of all,
our skin would turn dark.
Is this a primarily black church?
Yes.
And so they're using colorism.
Yes. And he's lighter skin from Georgia. The deeps, So
that is messed.
And he knew that I was struggling with my spirituality. And I would have ministers tell me that I didn't look like a man. I wasn't a man. I had to pray. I'd gotten marking. And it's based on Matthew. I think it's in the 20s. And I was marked for the first time when I was 14. And a marking. And at this time, you have to understand, I was not allowed to go to other churches. Mm-hmm. I was not allowed. I had a church choir. I was the choir director. I was not allowed to.
You were in it. Wow.
To sing in another church or another place. I wasn't allowed to praise dance anywhere else, any other church, because he said that he did not want me to be perverted by other doctrine, and that my voice and my gifts belong to this church.
Wow.
So, So he had marked me when I was 14. Now remember this.
The word marked is just so...
My family is not here.
Yeah.
I'm a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid. My mom's not here.
Yeah.
My aunt's a minister, so she doesn't even care. It's just me here. There's like no parent, like, don't say this, like, come on. Right. I had to do this for myself. I think we had 700 people at the time. It was a big church. It's huge.
Big, yeah.
He had made me stand on a chair in the middle of service. He came down with his Pompeii olive oil and took an X and he marked my head. He said, no one is to go near them, talk to them, speak to them. The only contact that they will have with people in this church is me and my male ministers. I was 14. Why? Because he didn't want my homosexual spirit to infect.
Oh my Lord.
And I stayed. I thought that was God.
And you were like, oh, he is so committed.
Fasting.
He is so committed
I was
to
fasting, praying. Like, this is God. Like, God is going to change me. I have to do this. I have to do this.
That is so terrifying. Like on such a spiritual and deep level that like you internalize that. I mean, and of course you did. You're a kid, and these are the people, these are the authority figures in your life, and there's the amount of time, the pure amount of time you're there.
Furious. My family hated me going here. They didn't go to church at all.
Yeah.
And they definitely didn't want me going here. And I mean, my mom and I would have blowouts. I'm going to fucking church, I would say to her. I got to a fight one time, and I was leaving church. And it was Friday night, and my mom really did not want me to go. Yeah. And my punishments, my groundings were, you're not going to church today. Like, excuse me? I had to go there. My mother said to me after a Friday night service, she said, if you're not back here by midnight, and I was 16, if you're not back here by midnight, you're not going to prayer. Now, Friday night service was probably like the best service, all week, because it was just high for some reason,
You sure? And pump it up.
And Friday night service starts at 7 p.m. So my mom was saying, be home by midnight. She knows where I was. Because that's how I was devoted, man. I would sing, and we would.
How was okay, so I know that your mother is mad about these people being gross, but does that mean she was affirming on like the queer side?
Hell no.
No. Okay.
No.
So she was also not giving you support, but was also mad at them for not giving you support.
Yes.
So no support was happening, but at least they were actively trying to change.
And my grandmother,
I can see how that's like
pushing me to go. My grandmother's like, your pastor needs, you need to pray and fast and get all those. And I'm faithful. My mom, I said, if you're not back here by midnight, you're not going to prayer. I got in there. I hit every red light. I think my friend parked the car in front of my mom's house at like 12:01. And my mother is waiting for me. And she says, you're not going to prayer. And I said, let me tell you something. I'm going to fucking prayer. We were taught to be, and I mean, my church, we were vicious, man.
Sounds like it.
We were the chosen.
I mean, God forbid you don't go to prayer and then all of a sudden you get dark.
And I know, because if we missed a service, like he knew, and he particularly knew when I was not there. I ended up calling the police.
On your mother?
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Why? So I can go to church.
What did the police do?
This is how devoted I was.
Did they like shake her down and convince her? What happened after that?
My mom had said, well, you can go live with them then. And I said, okay.
Yeah, that sounds great to you.
And then she said, well, I changed my mind because you want to go. And she's right. I had to save my soul. This was important to me.
Wow. So here's what led you, I guess, out of that situation where if this was so much of your life. Okay.
It was just as dramatic.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Because I mean, here you are going 5 days a week, if I'm counting correctly. Like all of your time is wrapped up into this organization. In school, I went to a gifted school. I had convinced my principal to give us time and space after school in a room, a prayer room. I made him give me a prayer room, and we had a prayer room. Every Wednesday, I had a prayer group, and we would. I'm not judging, just for anyone out there who still identify as Christian. Totally okay. I get it. I understand it.
To this.
Yes,
and
you were
carried my Bible to school.
Yeah.
Not like in my book bag. No, I paid $60 to my church because he got these Bibles, and all he did was put the stamp of the logo on there, and we paid $60. For a $20 Bible, we paid $45 over just because the stamp was on it.
You got to get the gilded
stamp. And he told me that they were blessed because they were blessed and anointed. He prayed over each and every.
That's a cult. That right there is a cult.
He used to tell us that he could hear our thoughts. We'll get there.
Woo!
Okay. We'll get there. We're untracing trauma. But so I'm in my senior year of high school, and I had missed a few services because I was in this homecoming court. And it was really important to me because, like I said, I went to a gifted school, but all of our things were district-wide. So there's like 600-700 kids from different schools, and we're the smallest school. We have like 100 people, and like no one knows me. I'm this queer kid I'm in the closet. I'm trying to like figure out who I am, blah, 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 blah. And I had gotten first runner up. I was like, oh shit. I lost my one popular vote. The Crown, it was, but I had to go to rehearsals and things like that. And I had won this sash. And they said first runner up. And I went to church with it that Sunday. And I didn't go to Sunday morning services because it was homecoming weekend. I did obligations and stuff, go to the homecoming game and all that. And I wore my sash and I was so excited. And I was like, oh my God, Bishop, look at this. And he's like, oh, I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
I can't wait for you to get that sash in heaven, blah, 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 blah. Now, Tuesday comes.
Okay.
And I'm getting my keys to go out to the church to clean. And I get a phone call from my pastor from the church. And it was direct. And I was like, what the fuck? And he said, did you kiss Brother Rashad? Now, this is just... Now, Rashad and he was my first love in church. I was 13, he was 14. And he could sing, and I was in love with him. And we were going on and off, and I was like, I can't. The last time I talked to him, I was like, I can't do this because I'm trying to be delivered. I can't do this.
Sure.
And we were really in love with each other. And I was like, we can't do this. And I had this dream of being gay pastors and shit. It was so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Things that live
stupid, but
things that live in the flesh, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I had cut Rashad off months before because we had.
You gotta stay away from each other like magnets.
He had found out through another church. I guess his ex-girlfriend in the church. He had confided in her, and she told the pastor because she was jealous. So he fires it. Like, did you? And I was like, before I could open my mouth. He said, I don't want your faggot spirit in my church infecting my members. He said, and I'll tell you what, if you come back, the only way that you'll be allowed to stay is if you're inspected by my male ministers.
Inspected?
I didn't know my mom had picked up the phone at the time, but my mom had picked up the phone and she heard the whole entire call.
Oh shit.
And I am standing there shaking. Like my entire identity since I was like 14 has been this.
Yeah.
All I've had, I couldn't have other friends that weren't in the church. I wasn't allowed to have friends that
your entire circle, sure.
I couldn't have, I couldn't do things. I couldn't be a regular teenager because my soul's on the line. I'm 17 thinking like I can't listen to worldly music because I'm gonna go to hell.
Yeah.
And
one little step and it's all ripped away.
It's gonna mess up and years of cutting myself, trying to kill myself in church, thinking that those were demons. It really was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I said, and I don't know what to do. And I said, I'm not coming back.
Okay.
And I hung up.
Okay.
That was the last time I ever spoke to him again.
Oh, good on you. Good on you. That's hard. That is hard. I didn't know
what to do. And then I changed my college plans. I was in my senior year and I went to a Christian college that was close to me.
Yeah.
And I went to this Messiah college and I was gay bashed there. It was all over Fox News. And I'm actually on Wikipedia on the Messiah College page under my dead name, Isaiah Thomas Messiah College. If you Google them, I was gay bashed. Death threats and everything.
What state was this?
Pennsylvania. If you Google search Isaiah Thomas Messiah College, you'll see me. They had called me on the morning of my last final. And I was hungover because I was highly depressed in school. I was cutting, I was drinking, I didn't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
I had been interviewed before in March by queer students that went to Messiah College, and Messiah is very, very, evangelical and very racist. Christian racist, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The population of Messiah College was 98% white.
So it's like the evangelical version of
Yes.
BYU is what you're
And I had a
telling
full
me.
ride. So I was like, okay.
I bet you did. Because they're like, we need at least one
Sure.
black person.
I did an interview and my mom told me, she said, don't do this fucking interview because it's for this gay Christian magazine for the new LGBT center. And I did it. And I told them exactly what was going on at Messiah. And I was like, yeah, I got a death threat. They cut up my shit and pissed on it. And I have been giving them the business. I have not stopped at all. I've been wearing the gayest shit I could find. I'm wearing hoop earrings. I'm painting my nails purple, not black, purple. I'm getting the glitter on them. I'm giving these white Christians a run for their money.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I said, don't publish this article until I'm out of this, I'm out of school. They published it the last day of finals week, and it blew up. It blew up. Our local Fox News affiliate, ABC affiliate, they're knocking on my door like, you need to get up. Like, what's going on? Like, Fox News and ABC is down in the hall waiting for you. They want to interview you now. My president, Kim Phipps, is like, they're freaking out because no one knew it was going to blow up like this. So I have a long history of doing this spiritual church trauma abuse, trying to navigate who I am, trying to reconcile my faith.
And it sounds like what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you always pushed harder. It sounds almost like as you already knew these things about yourself, you already knew that you were queer. Even despite that, even being kicked out from the one family church you knew, and your literal family not agreeing with your religious stance, you still kept on pushing yourself to find more and more devotion. Mm-hmm. Even these bad experiences weren't stopping you. They were just proving that you had to be even more Christ-like in some way and study more passionately and devote more time. Right. So each time these people are just coming and breaking your trust and your spirit, you come back and one-up them saying, okay, I'm going to go even harder. That's interesting. It says a lot about your drive and your passion. It's so sad that it was given to people who did not respect you.
My former pastor, he actually died a few years ago, unexpectedly. He was preaching. By the way, my pastor had been preaching with the likes of Benny Hinn, Rod Parsley. They had been in our church and preached specifically. So he was invited to World Harvest by Rod Parsley to preach a sermon. He went out there and I guess they said that he preached, and then after he had a heart attack.
Well, I think right there, that means everyone in the congregation should know that he was struck down by God, and God don't agree.
An unexpected heart attack.
Well, I mean, I don't wish bad on anybody. I don't. But God rest his soul. Bye.
He would tell me that I was going through this for somebody else, and that he had prophesied to me. He said that your voice is going to go to the nations, and you're doing this for someone else, and you're going to set people free.
And he was right about that. He just didn't know what that meant.
But he had told me in this phone call, he said that all those prophecies that he had prophesied over me were canceled, and I would go reprobate.
Yeah.
And I would be shipwrecked. And the fear for me was never going to hell. He made this, and I have to make this point in this because I wonder if people have heard this before. We were afraid of my pastor because he would discern, he could hear, he would tell us that before his words hit the ground, the angels would take it. And that God would tell him things about us. So we were convinced that he could hear our thoughts by proxy because discernment. Because God gave him discernment, he could discern what we were thinking.
Wow.
So he would tell us, and it terrified me in my drive, that we would go reprobate. And reprobate is, I forgot what scripture it is, the seal of Ichabod, where God would put a seal on your forehead, and the Spirit of God would leave you, and then it would never come back. So it's like, this is work. This is not like excommunication. This is worse because you could never get it back. So the Spirit of God would leave you, and you wouldn't know, but He would.
The amount of
It
just
would
like
terrify me.
psychological manipulation that is, and the fact that at any time that pastor's favor could be lost, and it means your literal relationship to spirituality, like the way that's so abusive is
it terrified us.
I bet.
Fuck hell. It was going reprobate because if you can come to church, you can do all these things, you can feel the Spirit, but God's not there. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
These folks are coming in here devoted, all of these things, and you're telling them that they could be reprobate and not even know it, but you would. Oof. And by proxy, that God could read our minds. And it took me years to unpack that, to smash that concept that God could read our minds, because for me, I was never safe as a queer kid in church. I was never safe.
Exactly.
There's no safety in my spirituality because God doesn't like me there. There's no safety in my mind because God can read my thoughts. There's no safety there. I can't go to a physical place because God sees me there. And I can be. So there was no place. And it took me years to learn that God can't read your thoughts. And that's just a personal belief of mine. I don't believe that God can read your thoughts. I think the safest place in your entire mind and the entire world should be your mind. And for any kind of religious sect or school of faith or school of thought to tell you that your thoughts are being monitored by some deity and you have to live your mental life in subservience, something you cannot see, is
be afraid of your own subconscious. Be afraid. Be fighting your instincts and your animal lizard brain.
That is the tool. That to me is one of the most insidious parts of my entire spiritual abuse. There was no safe place inside of myself. And by proxy, the only way that I could get through it was with Him. And I had gotten this Google internship before I got kicked out to UC Berkeley. And I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I had never been on a plane before. I never thought that I would ever fly across. I never thought. And this trip was what made me, like, I'm so glad this trip changed my life. I went to California, but I remember this specifically because my brother was getting married.
Okay.
And I didn't know I was going to get the scholarship. And they told me like 2 weeks before, like, hey, you got it. Woo. And not paying for anything, by the way. Like, you're going to UC Berkeley. What the fuck? And I was my brother's best man at the wedding at the time because, like, I was Isaiah. And I asked my brother, I said, hey, listen. And he was like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Go. Go.
Yeah.
I asked my pastor because the first thing I had to do, I was going to ask and I had said to my pastor's wife, prophetess. I said, hey, I got a Google internship to California. And she made this face, like, she was proud, but she was like, She's like, have you told Bishop? And I said, no. She said, you should. So after service, he said, come talk to me after service is over. So I go in there and he said, listen. He said, if you go down there, you're going to get your behind packed. You're going to be influenced by homosexual demons and spirits, and you're going to get your behind packed. You're going to go reprobate if you go down there. Ooh. I wrestled, man. I was 17. And
I was born and raised in California, and I can attest to that. If you go to California, you will be gay. But
I'm glad. So I'm terrified, and I went.
Yeah.
The whole time, I can't even like engage with these people from all over the country, by the way, all over the world.
It's a whole new place.
Because I am terrified that I'm going to go reprobate. They gave us this yearbook, and I have it. And all the comments in there from people like, you're such a beautiful person. I'm going to see you on TV one day. And there was this one comment. Her name was Catherine Fisher. She said, I was an atheist until I met you. She said, this is how Christians should be.
Aww.
So I went home and I took that fucking book and I said, look at that. I didn't go reprobate.
I saved somebody,
Right, but that
actually.
trip
Pastor,
that trip
bishop.
saved my life for me because I knew that I could get out of there. And I remember coming down into UC Berkeley and looking at coming down these stairs into this huge field in Berkeley, California. And I remember this green grass and the sky was so blue. And I had never seen sky so blue. And there are people laying on the ground and they're reading. There's college students. There's a lesbian couple walking their dogs. And it just looked like this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be like in this kind of feeling I never want to lose again. So I'm glad that experience happened because I remembered that when I left the church.
That reminds me, so I wanted to start getting into like those weird fundy shows, and the only one I've ever tried was Welcome to Plathville. And the youngest daughter is like not the youngest, the middle daughter, sorry, is like seen as like this like crazy leftist person because she wears makeup, and she's like, wow, why does she always want to wear makeup? And then she like talks about maybe wanting to be a model someday, and her parents are like, excuse you. So then she goes to help her sister-in-law do a wedding photo shoot in San Francisco, and like she's gonna get on the plane, and it sounds so familiar because it's the same kind of conversations the parents were having. They're like, you've never been exposed to these kinds of people before. You're gonna go outside of our bubble here in the Midwest, and you're gonna see a homosexual, and you're not gonna know what to do. You're going to be convinced that you want to live there. You're going to be taken by the glamour of it all, not realizing the sin that's underneath. And then you're just going to want to be there and be open to having friends with these kinds of people. I'm like, oh my God. And she did. She went to San Francisco. She's like, holy, like this is the shit. This is actually really amazing. Everyone's loving me. We're all accepting. I'm making friends. And she's like, I can't wait to go back. Absolutely. But it's funny that you got to be afraid of the world. That's how this works, is they have to keep you cloistered. They have to keep everything like he has all the power to be, whether you're knowing whether you're reprobate or not. And all that power has to stay with inside the community, because as soon as you can seek validation, seek love, seek actual affirmation from somewhere else, it threatens everything they have going on. So of course they didn't want you to go. And of course they thought you were going to become heathenistic more so. But I'm so glad you did, because that's a whole new outlook on life. Absolutely.
I had went back. The guy who I had left the church for actually died that same year, unexpectedly as well.
Oh, wow.
Of an enlarged heart. But he descended after that into drugs after I had left. And
this was the guy that you were seeing before you stopped seeing him? Okay.
He had, and I went back, and my mother had went to the funeral because I was still stationed. I was in the military at the time. I was still stationed in New Mexico, and she said it was beautiful. Blah 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 blah. I got you a program, and I said when I go back there, I'm not seeing these people since I left.
Yeah.
And I want them to see me now. Like, I joined the military. I've been in station honorably discharged. Like, I went to college. I did all of these things, despite them telling me that I would be shipwrecked without them. He told me I'd be shipwrecked.
Like literally, with like in a desolate island, or were they metaphorically
speaking? Both. I don't know what prophets. I don't know what the hell they were talking about.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay. And I was like, I have to go back in there one more time. Because before he passed away, he had called me and I missed the call, and he left me a message that I still have. Oh. Like, hey, baby, let's go and talk to you. And I missed him so much. He was just so dope.
Yeah.
And I remember I had just started my transition. So I didn't have a lot going on. So I could hide it at the time. And
got it.
I'd walked in this space and people were like being friendly and things, but I remember I felt the nostalgia of it, the good parts of the choir singing and the laughing and the church things.
And the people, like they're real people with real connection, sure.
And a lot of folks that I went with aren't there anymore, But I felt so powerful. Like, I just came in this bitch. I don't feel sadness or pain or
That's beautiful.
And the prophetess is now the pastor of the church, and she saw me.
Oh,
and she said,
okay.
And she said, stop. She said, Isaiah's mad. And everyone's clapping and things. And I wanted to say, that's not even who I am anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I got to give him something. I got to give those two boys something.
Yeah. And
I got to give a send-off to Isaiah.
That's good.
And they had an altar call. And I remember standing there, and people are looking at me.
This is at the funeral they had an altar call?
This is like a service after.
Okay.
And
I hate when they do that.
I know. People are looking at me, and I'm like, I'm going to go. So I went up, and there are all these people at the altar, and she comes and she stands in front of me, and she says, God loves you. I never in my life thought. She said, God sees you and God loves you. I don't know why that hit me. This woman who I had admired, and loved, and who I had confided in. And
yeah.
As I got on the floor and I prayed, I felt Rashad there. And I said, this is where I leave you. This is where I got out, and I just felt like I never have to come back here again.
Boom.
I feel no kind of obligation, no kind of closure that I need.
Yeah.
And I did it the way that I wanted to.
I love that.
Because I was in there in heels. They just didn't notice. They probably did notice.
They probably did.
And I was like, say something to me now. I remember feeling so afraid too, walking in, I am so scared.
Wow. And so that was the absolute last contact you had with Miss Prophetess thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was never an official coming out as Zoe to them?
Because they already knew.
They already knew. Okay. I was going to say, what I would love to know, and what I would love to hear more about is, so you have this experience where you're going, I think I think I missed a step somewhere. From where did you go to the internship back, or into the military, I should say, not back into? Where did you decide to join in the military, and how did that look like on your journey from?
When I was at Messiah College, and that was just a disaster. So I gotten out, and first of all, I was faithless. I had no community. I had no what to do.
Okay.
So I worked at an Applebee's, and my family was very pissed off at me, by the way. They were very pissed because you threw away this scholarship trying to, we turned Messiah College out. Yeah. My little queer group, we turned them out. We were not stopping for anything. We were posting on Facebook God loves, it was very, I wish people could go back in time with me to the 2000s, man. The 2000s were wild for evangelicals, man.
Oh yeah.
It was a wild time. The John Hagees, the Jerry Falwells, the Rod Parsley's, their churches are booming with the xenophobia, anti-Muslim sentiment. And then George Bush launches DOMA, is fighting against, and I want them to understand this was the peak for Black evangelicalism. This was Azusa Street was high. MegaFest was attended by 250,000 people. And MegaFest is by T.D. Jakes, a large, powerful evangelical who is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
In the Black Christian faith. Yeah. With Creflo Dollar. These are powerhouses. And there are 500,000 people showing up in Africa when he gets there. I want people to understand exactly how profound the evangelical movement was, particularly in communities of color during 9/11 and the Marriage Act. I want people to get how Don't Ask, Don't Tell was being pushed by the churches. I have to powerful man. I mean,
and this is at the same time, Don't Ask, Don't Tell would have been active when you're in the military.
Yes.
So that's like, you were very much.
This was an attack on the Christian faith.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need community. I don't know what to do. And I had my family, they're third generation Air Force. I'm third generation Air Force.
Okay.
So I had thought to myself, I said, you know what? I gotta do something that purpose. I want to do something that was just purposeful. I wanted to do that brought meaning. I'm a server at Applebee's and top server for the past 3 years. I wanted something that's meaningful. And Barack Obama was in, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to serve under President Barack Obama. And Don't Ask, I was like, I'm going to wait. If Don't Ask, Don't Tell is repealed, I will join.
Okay.
So I was in one of the first flights in the military in 2012 that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. So we were told, like our briefings and basic training was, if you feel unsafe, the homosexuals are allowed to serve. And like, you know, it's dated. They don't know what's going on. They're you know.
If you don't want to be on this squadron,
right.
We can't kick them out now. We will place you somewhere else. Yeah.
So, and I did it. My mom said to me, she said, listen, while you're in basic training, don't talk. Don't
good advice.
Or don't let them. Girl, fuck you.
Ooh,
and did. We had these superlatives by the end of basic training, and I was named the mother of my flight.
Mother.
I'm the mother. I was latrine queen, which means I am in charge of my group that cleans this bathroom, and I was the house mouse. That means I cleaned my MTI's office. He liked me, okay? Everyone loved me for a reason. I don't give a shit. Don't Ask, Don't Tell's repeal, honey. We've always been here, but this is a new kind of motherfucker. And then who knew 4 years later, in 2016, I would come out as transgender and start my gender
Well, I was going to ask that. I was going to say, in this time in the military, were you out as trans, or was that just...
I was out as queer, openly queer. Okay. When I first got there to my unit, they had known that I was gay. My lesbian best friend had gotten there before me 2 weeks before, and she told them. I said, you tell them. Warn them about it, bitch.
Tell them it's changing. It's coming.
Yeah, I'm not for the shit. So my sponsor was a sergeant that didn't want to work with me because I was, so he pawned me off to somebody else. So when I had gotten there, I was like, well, I landed in Clovis, New Mexico, and they immediately had a sandstorm that shut down the interstate.
Ooh. Fun.
Their initial briefing was, there are more cows than people here, and there are. The nearest Target was 2 hours away. All we had was a Walmart.
Yeah. Sounds like my
It was awful.
We had a Kmart. That's about it.
Oh my God, at least we had a Walmart. It was awful. So my first in-house briefing with my unit, and I fixed planes at the time. By trade, I'm an avionics technician. Woo. So I'm sitting here with all these
got brains, I see. Okay.
These greased up people, these mechanics. And I walked in there, and one of the guys had said, it was a dear friend of mine now. He said, Thomas, Airman Thomas, we heard that you like to suck dick. Is that true? Now and it's everyone is sitting
in public?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I said to him, well, pull your pants down, honey, I'll show you. And then they all start laughing. And that was the beginning of so I didn't really have issues within my union.
Yeah.
When I came out as trans in 2016.
Okay.
That was a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is clearly not Don't Ask, Don't Tell. This is it was an uphill battle. Okay. Now, not in my unit. My unit loved me, but outside of my unit, people that didn't know me, I was one of the first. I was the first openly trans national anthem singer. I'm the first openly trans choir director. I'm the first. A lot of first openly. I'm the first.
Right.
So Being the first is hard
I bet.
in a lot of places because they're firing out tweets. Trump is firing out tweets.
Yeah.
And none of my leadership knows what to do. So every day I'm thinking, am I going to get kicked out? All of my service? I have no job. I don't know what I'm going to do after this. All we know is that my commander-in-chief does not want us here. Mattis does not want us here.
Yeah.
And I have done 2 deployments already. And I'm set to go on another one. And this myth is that trans folks are infiltrating the military. They're trying to steal funds to get these surgeries when there have been.
Oh yeah. You're going to serve just for getting reaffirming.
And there are a lot more trans people in uniform at this base than you know. They're just not out.
Yeah.
And they haven't started. I am. And my only way, I thought during the election of Trump was, I thank him for only one thing, and that was for me coming out. Because when the election happened, I knew that in my heart of hearts, I had to respond. And I had to rebel. And it's against the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ military law, to protest when you're serving. Or serving in uniform, something like that. But I knew I couldn't go to an anti-Trump rally. And I said, the only way that I can truly rebel and protest is being who I am, since he doesn't want me to be here. How defined is that? What kind of rebellion? The visibility is rebellion, and joy is an act of resistance, and it's rebellion. So I was considering coming out, and I had this first sergeant, Senior Master Sergeant Joey Hall, sent me an email one day with the transgender policy guidelines. I have no idea why he sent it to me. Not a clue. I hadn't told anybody. He just randomly said, I think you need to read this. And I read it, and I said, I'm trans. I just emailed him back and said, I'm trans, period. And he sends it back. He's like, come to my office. And he's like, how do you want to start? I want to start. And I said, I'd like to start. And we started my transition. So the last 3 years of my enlistment out as trans.
When you said, how do you want to start? I thought you meant like starting the paperwork to get removed. I was so worried.
Which of this paperwork to get started and to get removed. Okay. And they did actually remove a few trans people while I was serving. Yes.
From service. They removed them like out.
Removed them.
Oh.
Admin discharges, things like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think that, I mean, you probably can't comment on it as those other people.
Yes, I can.
That was okay. Do you think that was a mutual decision? Did you think that they had any say in that process of like, okay, I also don't want to be here if you don't want me to be here?
We were actively fighting against it.
Okay.
Oh, no. This was not mutual. And then we had formed what am I going to do? Well, there are other people here just like me, and they need support. So my therapist and I started a group.
Yes.
So then now we're all here, and they know about the group. So hell no, it was not mutual. We knew everything, and I'm going to keep fighting. So I would show up to places, trans. I'm coming to you, trans. I'm showing up as a trans person. Mm-hmm. Because it took years to do this. You being comfortable is none of my business. You being uncomfortable with my existence and my expression is none of my business. Right. That's your problem, not my problem. If someone comes in here wearing a rainbow trash bag, no eyebrows, no arms, and balding, what does their clothes? What does anything that they have on their expression have to do with you?
Yeah.
What does anything they have on, how they live, have to do with you? If they walk in, right? If they walk in and you all of a sudden have a problem, that's a you issue. That's a you problem. So immediately, I had to learn how, particularly now, we're queer people, and socially, things are not, I shouldn't say that. Politically, things are not getting better for us at all.
no, it feels like we're back in 2006.
Right. Anti-LGBT crimes are rising again. It's happening all over again.
Yeah.
I had to make sure, and I'm sure a lot of queer folks have to make sure, that our confidence exceeds the insecurity, and the anxiousness of other people, and that's exhausting.
I think that's important. I think can we go back and highlight that again?
I have to be confident enough not to be threatening to you, and that is in this confidence, you're walking this fine line of being self-confident and keeping your self-esteem, but also making yourself visibly invisible enough not to make you feel threatened.
Yeah. Because
sadly, you feeling threatened could end someone in a marginalized group's life.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Black guy in this store and I feel uncomfortable. You calling the police could have 5-6 officers beat you to death. You being uncomfortable with a trans woman in the bathroom can get her murdered. Because you decided to be uncomfortable that day.
Yeah.
Because you feel that you were being looked at by a 13-year-old boy, and you just felt uncomfortable that day, and you called somebody, and now there's a 13-year-old boy in a casket. You know what I mean? And we're always making sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to being firm in our footing enough to not hide ourselves, be enough not to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, as you're saying, is basically you have to be there, show up as your authentic self, make your presence known in the world, because otherwise they win. And at the same time, make sure to have an air about you where it's not over dominating or putting your presence into a way that makes the person feel in danger, or so that must be exhausting, especially as a Black trans woman. Like that's the stereotypes that are already there on cis women with the whole, angry Black female. And then the stereotypes that are there on Black men with they're all thugs and they just want to like plunder the white woman. Having to take all of that bias and all of that narrative and then still come across as like gracious and self-respecting. And that's BS. You have to do that all day.
Right. And I've learned, I'm still learning that, because now I don't. And like I tell my followers all the time, if you look back at my early videos, because I don't delete anything, I don't even recognize the person in those videos because she was caked up in makeup because she wanted to look a certain way and she wanted to pass. As I got into healing and actively working on my trauma, now I just don't. That is none of my business.
Yep.
That is none of my business. It's none of your business.
And pass by whose standards? You
don't owe me femininity or masculinity or this kind of accent. You don't owe me shit.
Exactly.
That's none of my business. So I always find myself and it feels so dangerous, and I tell myself this, and it's so stupid, but it's so sad that we live in this kind of country. When I came out as trans, I told my mother, I said, I was prepared to die as this person. The only thing I want you to do is, if I am murdered, you make sure they call me Zora. I don't care if you call me he, she, it. You make sure they call me by my name. They're going to call me Zora. So I was prepared to die for this. And I'm always prepared to die as this person. So I found myself living risky. Like, I'm in the grocery store with both of my AirPods in. Because if they're going to kill me, at least I want to be tuned into something that I like. And it's a sad reality that you just have to accept. And I think that a lot of people that live in the AMs, and I have to explain this before, if anything is not taken out of this, I need this to be understood. Intersectionality is really important to me. And in a simple way, intersectionality is the overlapping of all of these identities and responding to them. With all of these, to me, is responding to social crisis and human rights violations as all of those people. Because if I just show up as a Black person, I'll negate being queer. If I show up as just a queer person, I'll negate my Black existence. If I show up as just a veteran, but I'm showing up as a Black and disabled and neurodivergent and because the and parts, those intersections are where we meet.
Yep.
Those intersections that's where healing starts. That's where it ends. That's where it ends, concludes. That's where it is. When you heal,
you have to bring all of you to be able to actually benefit.
You have to show up to your trauma
you.
like, hey, I'm showing up to my spirituality. And in their spirituality, there's a lot of Christian hurt and spiritual abuse and things like that. And I've only been taught that I can show up to this altar. I can only get this communion. I can only show up as a Black Christian. And I can't bring that. Intersectionality is, come on. I'm bringing this because all of us are getting communion today.
Whoop.
All parts of me deserve the body. I'm bringing my disabled self because we all came here to the gate called beautiful.
I love that.
Stand up and be made whole. We all came. I brought all of this.
Yes.
We're all here together.
Yes.
And at any time that we only answer from one part of our existence, we miss the message. Because like the Tyree Nichols thing that's going on right now in our country, if you looked at the situation and you did not feel a part of it, you've missed it. If you're not enraged or incensed, you've missed it because you're only seeing this from one part of your identity. Because just because they're Black, the perpetrators and the victims were Black, you don't see yourself a part of it. You have to be intersectional. Now, you're a citizen.
Yep.
You're an American citizen. Now, here's your intersection. I am white, Black, this and that. All right, here's your street. Now, here's where your and comes in. I'm an American. If you just stay there at that street, you're going to miss the intersection. No. You have to meet me at the and. You are white, American. You should be angry as a citizen.
Yep.
Your citizen part of your identity, you're American, you're patriotic, should be pissed off because a system killed a citizen. And the same system kills citizens. This is an institution, not a color. This is an institution. The intra, the INTRA, the intra problems here is Black men killing Black men. That's a problem.
Yep.
The overarching problem here, the intersectional problem here is that we can all meet at being American. You may not be able to understand how we're feeling about this as a Black person, but as an American, you can meet me at the end. This is an our problem. Because
I mean, the racist arguments, they always love to say cops kill white people more.
And I'm just as angry.
You should be pissed.
Correct.
The government is killing its citizens. Right. That's an issue.
That's an issue.
Yep.
You saying they kill us too does not invalidate the first argument or justify.
It just backs it up.
It backs it up.
You should be burning it all down.
Why are they killing you too? You too. That should be a new movement. You too.
Ooh.
It's not just you
I like
too.
I like the way that sounds, actually.
like we're not in this boat together. You too. They're not just coming for queer people. You too.
They're not just coming for women.
Right.
They're not just coming for queer people. They're not just coming from Black people.
Nobody
is safe.
Right.
You can have all the privileges.
And I'm hoping that these
conversations,
you're still not safe. Because I'm trying to put a research together thing for this. Because I believe that if we can heal the trauma within ourselves, we can heal those intersections. We can bridge the gaps within ourselves because and we're still building those things between our faith and sexuality. We're still building those things between our self-worth and our body image. We're still building these bridges. We're still building how to be Muslim and queer, how to be Jewish. We're still building these things within ourselves. Once we build and heal those things within ourselves, we then take these to other people. We're going to take that. I'm going to take this light and I'm going to take it to the community that I was taught to not like. Now we're going to do this together. I'm going to meet you at the end. And if by proxy, if I can do this, if I can heal those things in myself, we can heal those things as a community. And then we can intersectionally end capitalism, because the end to capitalism is healing of our trauma. It's intersectionality, and it's you too.
And finding the power as a whole. Even what divides us, we are still, as you said, American citizens.
Because the things that divide us is what's going to bring us together. Absolutely. Because no, race does not divide us. Right. Properly, race brings us together. We're going to take this tool back. We're going to snatch it. We're going to reclaim this colonial fucking system. We're going to smash it and do something else with it. But hell yeah, I want to know the white person. I don't know. How would I know the white male perspective if you don't tell me? How would I know the Pakistani queer experience if you don't tell me? Hell no, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to know those deep things, because that's how we learn. We took it back.
Absolutely. And I have so much hope for the future. I have so much hope that we're going to be able to. I think things probably are going to get worse before they get better. But I do, with just like the old guard versus the new guard, and the way that they're clawing so hard at this makes me feel that they are terrified for their old way of life. I think they see the writing on the wall, and this is their last Hail Mary effort to try to get out as many different groups and disadvantage as many different privacy rights as they can, while they know they're going to be dead in the next 5 to 10 years and they won't have any control in Senate. They're just trying to,
right? Because
they see it coming. They see that coming. They see that unity. They see that acceptance, and that terrifies them when all they've known is division and or control. Much back to your prophet that you were under, when he has this isolated community that he is able to control what the temperature in the room is. Something invalidating that and popping that bubble where all of a sudden you're open to the elements is terrifying for them.
Yep.
And so we're almost there, and you can see it because of how bad it's gotten. Hopefully, that's my feeling on it.
I agree.
Right. Okay. So I do want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about. I know we're running out of time. I'm sorry. I want to be respectful of how long you have. I don't know how long you do have.
Please.
We're past the hour mark, but I really want to get into what made you step back and I don't want to say fix your trauma, because that's not how that works. But what made you, even as you were fighting for your rights in the military and you had left the church that was abusive in that space, I'm sure there's still a lot of integration work that had to be done into accepting yourself and allowing yourself to be a spiritual person. How did you start that journey? If you're going to recommend to somebody, what are the tools you found in yourself to be I can do this, and back to the and intersections, I can be queer and spiritual, or I could be trans and Christian, or I can be a fighter for the military and the country and be a teacher to children. How did you find the ands in yourself?
Because for me, I had no other option. Now, when you think about it,
fair.
Think about it. What was the alternative? That's it. I asked myself, what have you been doing? And I just didn't like the things that I was using before. I didn't like it because they didn't work.
Yeah.
They did not work. I'm not drinking this shit away. No, I can't cut it away. I can't sex it away.
You could try.
I need to deal with it. Right. And I've tried.
Sure.
Been on my back more times than the American gladiators. Okay.
Been there.
I couldn't do it that way because I have no other choice.
Yeah.
What is the alternative? I gave myself, it's either or. What is your alternative besides healing? What is the
being in more pain? Is that what you want, Zora? Yeah.
I'm a very, give me face value first, because I'm an American and I know I need to read the article headline first. If the article headline is not in bold and not telling me what the fuck I'm about to read, I'm not doing it. So I told my trauma, I told myself this, bitch, it's either this or that in bold. What's your alternative?
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It's not working.
If it doesn't work, what's the opposite? And I sat there with it for a few weeks. In this house, just thinking, what's the alternative? No. I have no other option.
Love that so much. I love that. And I think that applies to literally anyone. I know that, well, I mean, okay. Well, I don't know why I just like my brain went into like a whole different section of mutual aid for general strikes. And that's not where I was going, but it's kind of related somehow. That goes to everybody, like learning to just say, I refuse to accept this life the way I'm feeling, the way I'm thinking about myself is so necessary to change that pattern. However, understandably, we do know that you may be in a financial situation where you can't leave an abusive husband. And God forbid, if you don't go to church with him every Sunday, that's going to be a fight. Like, we understand that there's different situations out there where it's maybe not physically possible or financially possible. But I think one of the beautiful parts about your story is so much of your journey is just intellectually inside happening. You are taking stock of where you're at, where you feel, who you feel like, and learning to really connect on an emotional level, building that emotional intelligence with yourself. That's where you start. It doesn't have to be a therapist or outside resources. If you can't get out of the situation that you are in currently, understandable, but you can start by really investigating you and figuring out where in the future, when I can set boundaries, what will they be?
Starts with a decision.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision. And the biggest part was having to reconcile my spirituality, because that felt so open. Like, what do you do here?
That's a big one, sure.
And Jacques Derrida, as a former great thinker, I became comfortable with saying, I don't know. 2, I don't have to know. I don't have to know. And 3, what does it matter? 4, I define it. Now, optimistic nihilism is a school of thought where there is no meaning. But the optimistic nihilist is, for me, good.
But that's great, yeah.
I get to decide and define everything that I do.
Absolutely.
Because if we're in this thing, or it's a simulation and we're being watched, give them a show. If I'm here, I need to enjoy this while I'm here. The second thing is, even more, if we are the anomaly, the accident, the thing the universe was not supposed to make, that makes you pretty fucking special.
It's amazingly special.
In your own right.
Someone somewhere fucked up and gave us consciousness. Right. How crazy is that?
The gift to be able to dream and to feel, realizing that is you. That literally is you.
Yeah.
And if you don't love yourself, then you have to start thinking about things in your house. Don't you lock your door? You lock your door because you have things in here that you value. You value these things. I worked hard for these things. Then do those things with yourself. Hell, you got here. What's your other option?
Yeah.
You get to define this thing. You get to tell your own story. You get to put purpose on everything that you do. That is pretty special.
That is beautiful. I love you so much. I feel like there's so much more of your story I want to get into, but like we've already been at this for almost an hour, 15 minutes. Do you have a couple more minutes to just like field questions in case there's anyone in the chat? So you can keep on chit-chatting while we look for things. But if anyone has questions before we wrap up in a couple minutes here, go ahead and drop them. Wyatt, didn't I mute you? I kept you around, but I muted you. I swore I did. It's so amazing, I guess, to see just like the fruitful way you've taken all the negative things and just still risen above them. Because there's so many people, I'm not judging them at all, but so many people can be broken down by the repeated abuse that you've gone through, and you've just chosen to care about yourself. And I think that's the important lesson, is at the end of the day, these decisions, whether you make them or not, you're the only one that you have. And I just, even if you're the villain, you know how they always say in acting, find what you relate to in the villain, because the villain doesn't hate themselves. They think they're a good person. But at least they have self-love for themselves. And that's what we should all learn, is like how to just embrace ourselves no matter what. And like you said, it's no one else's business. Whatever they think about you, it does not matter. It has no reflection on who you actually are. You know who you are. You know what your thoughts are.
Would you let a squatter just come into your house?
Oh, I have.
They don't pay
it was 6 months of hell.
A squatter in your house, they don't pay anything. They just eat up all your stuff. They put their feet up on your tables. They dry their muddy hands on your good towels. They eat your favorite food in the refrigerator. And you're like, oh my God, why? No, why would I do that? Okay. Why do you let your trauma do that to you?
Why?
Why do you let your trauma sit in your space and not pay you? I'll be damned. If you're going to be in here, if I'm going to be haunted by flashbacks, I'm going to use you for something. If you're going to give me nightmares, I'm going to use it for something.
Yeah.
If you're going to be here, you're going to fucking pay. Paint these walls. Vacuum up the floor. If my trauma's here.
Yeah. It's already done. Can't undo it.
Get out.
But you can't. Right. Yeah, but you don't have to hold on to it every day, all day. You can release it and acknowledge it.
Took our mental health and our emotional health just as seriously as we do our physical health. If we would protect the things in our homes and lock the doors, why don't we do these things? Why don't we love ourselves enough to establish boundaries?
Yeah. It's because we've been raised in such a world, and I think the internet's kind of made that worse. Well, there's parts of it that made it better, but we've been raised in such a way that everyone is owed access to us, whether that be in a digital sense, in a performing sense, but also just in a way of like, if you're not giving everybody access to you, then you're closed and against the cause. I don't know what the mindset is behind it, but it's ironically enough, even it's much more prevalent in an individualistic society as compared to a like group hive society. And so it's very interesting where like if you think of maybe like a Japanese culture where everything's much more the culture first and then me second, they still have very clear lines of boundary and privacy and respect in terms of not giving up their time just for whatever reason. Like they still think of the conscious as a whole, but they're not owing that to everyone. And yet in America, it's reversed, where everything's me, individualistic society wise. And yet we're taught that we have to grant everyone our power, our access, our time, our resources. God forbid you're working a minimum wage job. You better be overperforming. You show up there and you do that job better than expectations, because that's makes sense. No, do the job you're getting paid for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But like, yeah, so we've just been taught and we've been trained in just like this weird way. And that's the hard thing to learn. And so, yeah, we all need boundaries. We all need to lock that door to our house. And it's hard in America to learn that sometimes because we've been taught from every angle to do the exact opposite. Yep. And that's because they want to make you into a good little worker bees, I believe. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any questions. I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat. Hi, Mr. Lucian. Elusive Poet. I need that squatter trauma parallel on a poster. Do it. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for everyone who's joining me. Before you get out of the stream, please like, and then I will give the floor back to you. So go ahead and tell if you have any projects coming up, anything that you're working on that you'd like to push out there. Now's a good time, but also just where to find you. Yeah, you can put all your socials and stuff.
No one's in the Tucson area, so there are comedy shows going on. Links on my Instagram. My Instagram is Sluts on Stilts.
Ooh.
Because that was my nickname in Bible camp. A slut on stilts. So please follow me on Instagram at Sluts on Stilts. And my TikTok is Zothemotorscooter, also my YouTube. I love people, and I took an oath to help people and to give my life to people and help them love themselves and trauma healing and actively healing and loving themselves and intersectionality. Because at the end of the day, you have to keep on spinning.
Right.
Because if something happens to you, if you die today, that's effectively the end of your world. And when you think about it like that, that is very important. Take care of yourself. Take care of other people. Love yourself. Take care of the planet, because we only have one. That's it. That's all I got.
I love it. I'm putting in the chat a link to your TikTok directly. I was trying to find your Instagram link, and it's not coming up in Google, so I'd have to do that.
Changed it. Sluts on stilts.
It's also, is it in your card? Because I also have your card in the description if anybody wants to use just like the Linktree card. That's up in there.
Yeah, it should be in there.
Okay, beautiful. And then in terms of me wrapping it up, thank you everyone for joining the very first episode. Like, what? We're going to be doing this every week. There's not a set time or a set day even. I'm kind of opening it up to the guests that I'm inviting. The poll I did here on YouTube overwhelmingly said that they wanted it to be on the weekends. So I'm opening it up Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, and then literally anytime within those. So whenever I have a live event coming up, I will let everyone know the time and the date. I'm usually going to close it down. Like, say if somebody says, okay, I could do it Saturday at 2, that's going to be it for the week. But yeah, so unfortunately, it's not going to be like, oh, if I come here on Monday, it'll be ready. But since lives are pre-recorded and they show up on my profile, you will come here on Monday and you can still find whatever you missed live. So that's, I guess, the good benefit. You'll know there's at least one a week. You just don't know what time it is until I announce it. So stay tuned for that. You hopefully, if you're here, you know where to find me already, JeGaysus. And if you are watching this, I'm going to be making an audio podcast. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, go ahead and make sure to rate the podcast, because that is how it ranks. And if you're new to YouTube, please subscribe. And I also am making a Patreon so we can have a community for Discord. So that's launching literally this very moment. This is the link for everybody in the chat, and anybody listening, is just JeGaysus at Patreon. You can just search it. And I'm going to have the tiers set up. Right now, we only have one. But I think that does everything. This was, I think, a resounding success. Thank you so much to my guest, Zora. You are beautiful. You are a light to the world. I was describing my first episode to my mother, and she was like asking who the guest is. I was like, oh my God, Zora, she has the most amazing smile. Like, it just like radiates the entire room. Like, because you do. You're just amazing. And yeah, okay, well, that's a wrap, I guess. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you again, and I will see you soon. Bye.